Like, that's so upsetting.
Yeah. The culture of it is so upsetting. Like, it's so different for us, and I think that sometimes we forget how they actually cope with things, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we let all these things out, but what do? We never hear about it. Yeah. And I think they have so many problems as well, so that's just upsetting. Really upsetting.
Yeah. Okay, I think because I don't share a lot of my problems, but that's not really because society or you guys invalidate me. That's just me invalidating myself.
Does that come down to self-esteem? Or what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know.
And I completely understand that, because there's some feelings that, like, I completely invalidate in myself, even though there's other feelings that, like, I think and, like, make it the biggest issue in the world.
Here's some phrases not to say to not invalidate people. So we have, at least it's not, or it could be worse. Yeah. Don't say those things. Also, I'm sorry you feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. Don't think about it. Just get on with it. Or I'm not having this discussion. Those really harmful, guys.
Okay, so with the I don't want to have this discussion, I think in some cases that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Because if you feel uncomfortable talking to somebody about an opinion they have or an emotion that they're having, and you feel like, oh, you're not the best person for this, or like you don't want to cause a problem, you should definitely be like, hey, I really don't think I'm the right person to talk to about this. But the other thing that I wanted to say is, if you tell somebody, it could be worse. Are you serious? I get there's other problems that might seem bigger to other people and stuff, but this person is actually in need of help.
Yeah.
Every person deserves that help. And if you tell me that, oh, just get over it.
And like, everyone has different forms of hurting, you know? Just because theirs is different to yours doesn't mean that it's any less valuable. And I, like, relating it back to mental health, I think that that is so toxic on the brain and the mindset. Like, if you have that mindset of like, oh, well, it could be worse, let's not talk about it anymore, and you bottle up all those feelings, that's really harmful for your mental health, and that's what we're trying to stop, you know?
Yeah.
So stop the invalidation.
I feel like that could also start to form social anxiety. Because people won't want to let on more, if that makes sense, and it'll make them anxious in like social situations because they don't want to be invalidated.
Yeah.
And so they kind of like stress out about what they're saying or like how they're saying it or like, you know, which is horrible.
And then like friendships become a problem for them even. So yeah, it causes a monster of problems.
Oh yeah, and we were talking about it earlier, how you guys get like anxious, and I don't really know what anxiety is, so I can't really relate. And I feel like that would be like an easy path to like instantly invalidate, but instead you have to be like supportive about it, like even if you don't understand.
Yeah, like having just empathy. Like even if you can't relate to what they're saying, just having empathy for that person.
And also, people need to know that there's a difference between anxiety and anxiousness. But there's a difference, and both of those feelings matter.
They're both valid.
If you're feeling anxious about something versus you having anxiety over something, it still matters.
Maybe we should get an expert on here to explain it to us.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
I'd really love that and ask them about it.
Because we can only talk about anxiety for us and how it feels personally, which is not how it feels for everyone.
Yeah.
So to get like a generalized professional statement would be probably really helpful. That'd be really cool.
And like to know what it actually is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, what is your body doing to cause you to like either hyperventilate, shake, like feeling like sick. The world's gonna end, feeling sick,
whatever
throwing
it might
up,
be.
you know. Everybody has different like
forms of it.
Yeah.
Different
I
like
almost said
triggers.
symptoms.
Yeah.
But it's
because I know like different people have it and their forms can be totally different. Like some people get stressed from anxiety, some people like close themselves off to the world, some like it's just everyone's different, and I think they all are valid, every form, and we just need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let people know, you know, that these things they're feeling, they're okay.
Yeah. They're okay to feel. You should not feel guilty about feeling these feelings. You can't just invalidate yourself saying, oh no, but my issues aren't that big, so why am I feeling like this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way. I feel like that's going to heighten whatever feeling you have. And it genuinely makes me sad when I know people are going through stuff like this and invalidate it, and so they don't like go to the doctor for help or therapists for help, and then they just suffer, and they might have a serious mental health concern, but they've invalidated it and just not taken proper care of themselves.
And I think that invalidation comes down a lot to comparing yourself to others, other situations, other experiences. And it's so important to learn that you can't compare everything, and you shouldn't really compare everything.
Yeah.
Because just because your experience is different from someone else doesn't make it any less important. And that's really hard because I'm really bad at comparing myself to things like people and stuff. And it's such a toxic thing on your mind, you know, just comparing yourself.
What do you guys find yourself invalidating yourself most in? First of all, do you guys find yourself invalidating yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I have lack in myself.
And what is that most in?
For me, it's dismissing feelings that I think could be mental illness and then not speaking up about it or trying to find help. Because I really don't know whether it is or not.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, it can't be. You don't have real issues. You don't have a valid reason to have these feelings.
Yeah.
Which is my main one.
Yeah.
Is just invalidating fear and anxiousness. And, you know, I think that's the worst one for me, to be honest.
I relate to that definitely. It'd be about the feelings and stuff, because I just go and I look at other people and I'm like, wow, they have such a hard life. I have such an easy life. Like, why am I even feeling this way? And then you just degrade and invalidate yourself.
I'm just wondering, could you invalidate yourself about your own appearance? Does that make sense?
Like, make yourself feel bad about yourself?
Like, just think that you're not pretty or something.
Let's say you're like, you have like a good day and you actually like the way you look that day, and then you invalidate yourself and you're like, no, why are you calling yourself pretty? That's so stuck up, that's so self-centered, that's so... Does that count as invalidation?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, that is a good point.
I've never thought of that.
Like, you're like, oh wow, I'm looking pretty good today, like this is a confident day, and you're like, no, beat yourself up about it, and then just pick out everything that's wrong with yourself, and then you're just back to square one, you know? You've got
and then
no
you're
progress.
like, well, I'm not going to be self-centered, I'm not going to be like, you know. But then
You just want to stay
you're not
humble.
being self-centered.
No, you're not. You just like,
You're not being self-centered.
I feel like I'm big-headed, so I'm like, nah, I need to bring myself back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are allowed to be confident in yourself. You are allowed to love yourself without feeling like you're being selfish. Because you're not being selfish. You loving yourself is a form of self-care, looking after yourself. Because if you can't love yourself, I know this is like so cliche, but how can you love others?
I've never actually understood that.
I think it comes down to relationships. If you have a good relationship with yourself and your confidence and stuff, then you can portray that onto other people. But if you have an unhealthy relationship to yourself and you constantly beat yourself down and all that, that's what you portray onto others as well.
But this just popped up into my head. This can also mean if you love yourself and you validate yourself and you like, you know, you're going to look for a person in a relationship to do that to you as well, because you have self-worth. But if you're invalidating yourself and saying, oh no, I'm not good, I'm not, you know, you're going to get into a relationship, friendships, actual relationships, anything. You're going to expect that person to be like that to you, and you're going to allow them to be like that to you because you're doing that to yourself.
Exactly.
So you think it's okay.
Exactly.
Big brain.
That right there.
Wait, so what you do to yourself is going to be mirrored by what the other person does?
Well, that's what you think
well,
you
that's
deserve.
what you're going to allow them to do.
Yeah, because you think, oh, this is what I do to myself. This is what I deserve. I deserve nothing better than this. And that's exactly what
That's
happens.
how people get into like toxic relationships.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
whether that's friendships or any relationship at all.
Definitely.
That's how you get into that toxic relationship, because you're invalidating yourself. So why can't they invalidate you?
Exactly. You don't believe you deserve any better. And that's why I think you must have a good relationship with yourself before you
And
can
love
go
yourself,
on with others.
yeah.
Because honestly, if you don't, you're just setting yourself up for failure. And it really
And for
sucks.
hurt.
Yeah.
The whole loving yourself part is mainly just so you know your
You know what you deserve. Yeah. Because if you don't, you're going to settle for way less.
Okay, that makes much more sense now. I never understood that. Like, you have to love yourself. I'm like, well, how do you even know if you love yourself?
When you can look in the mirror and not hate yourself.
But I feel like you can still hate yourself if you love yourself. You'd be like, well, it's just not my day.
Yeah, you can. But if you're overall very negative towards yourself and not just like your appearance, like everything.
I think everybody can have off days.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
think everybody's going to be every day, oh my gosh, I'm so pretty. Like, I love myself. I look good. I think everybody will have off days.
Especially being a teenage girl, you'll often feel down quite a lot.
No, but it's social media. everything that social media portrays. Teenage girls think that that's how they're supposed to look, that's how they're supposed to live.
Definitely. If I never saw like those images, I don't think I would have compared myself so harshly, because those standards, they're impossible. The people who even look like that, they don't even look like that themselves. So how are we supposed to achieve that, you know?
Editing, like the way they're standing in that moment.
Yeah.
If they're just walking around, they're not going to look like that. I saw this TikTok the other day where this girl was like posted her body on TikTok from the side, and she's like, how do you get rid of this little fat like on the lower part of your stomach? And this one girl stitched it, and she's like, that's your uterus.
Yeah, literally.
That little bit of fat that's in front of your uterus is like saving your
Protecting your
uterus
baby.
from like literally dying. How sad is it that some people think that that is like
Not okay.
not okay and that you need to get rid of it just because it's considered imperfect?
Like, social media has made something that is so natural seem like disgusting.
Yeah.
And I think that is insane. Like, it's
That's
your
so
body's
sad.
anatomy, because all you see is these perfectly flat stomachs with none of it.
When they're like literally posing and they're like pulling themselves up so that it looks flat. But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not
No.
like that.
If you relax, I think everyone has one unless you've had surgery on it. You can do whatever makes you feel confident, and if getting cosmetic surgery is that, go ahead. But I just think the toxicity that comes from it.
I think you're perfect the way you are, but do what makes you happy.
Exactly.
And if it's gonna hurt you, don't do it.
Yeah, like if you're going to take ribs out to have a smaller waist,
Yeah,
babes, I don't think that's
babes.
needed. But I mean, if you feel confident in that, go ahead.
It's
If
really
hurting-
hard being like, be who you want to be.
Yeah.
Be happy.
Being supportive while
You
still
are perfect the way you are.
taking into
But then
consideration their
being like,
opinions.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
if that makes them happy, then who am I to tell them it's
Exactly.
wrong?
I think it only comes down to when it's actually affecting their health, then it's alright to say something. Because if they're going to do something that literally threatens their lives, no.
That's not okay, yeah.
No. And like we were just saying, that comes back to opinions, you know? You can have opinions about something, their opinions might be different. And even though you might clash on them, you know, you can't really say anything about it.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Because it's just like they're doing something that makes them feel confident, but then that also just puts that onto everyone else around them.
Yeah, and like young girls, I
Oh.
think they have to look like that. Bro, I
Like-
can't. You need to be running around getting your freaking shoes dirty.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredibly sad to me.
It is.
And seeing what grade 7s or 6s look today
Mm.
and like what I look like in
I
grade 6,
know.
like it's crazy how social media has impacted our world and it's really kind of sad.
It's the biggest impact in our lives. Like, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it except love people and tell them that they are valid and not encourage them to feel like they need to change themselves to look like a certain way. Because everybody's different. There's this thing that's like, if everybody ate the same food, everybody did the same exercises, everybody did the exact same routine, everybody would still have a different body.
Oh, yeah. It's your genetic
Nobody
makeup.
would look the same.
Yeah, it's your bone structure,
Yeah.
where your fat lies, how your fat is even like put, your metabolism. It's
Some
like
people-
everything.
Literally, they can't lose weight. And it's not their fault.
No.
It's their body.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Any weight is, in my opinion, gorgeous. You don't have to weigh 10 kilograms to look beautiful.
Yeah. And I think everyone's trying to fit this one body standard, but it's like, if your body's not made that way, it's not made that way.
Yeah.
Period. Like,
And again, everybody's gonna feel insecure and that's okay. Just don't.
invalidate.
I know, we keep on coming back to that. Don't invalidate yourself. You are who you are and you're amazing just like that.
Okay, so here it says that the most common forms of invalidation include blaming, judging, denying, and minimizing your feelings or experiences. And I think experiences, that's a really good one. Everyone experiences different things without their lifetime. Some people experience like 10 times the trauma I'll ever experience. And just because that's true, invalidating it doesn't do any good.
Do you know what's weird for me to think about is the people who have more trauma than any other people actually listen to the people that don't have as much trauma as them. They're the ones that actually listen and don't invalidate other people's feelings.
But yeah, I find it strange how different people cope with it, because I know people who have had much more traumatic things happen than me, and they act like nothing's happened to them. Like, they hide it so deeply within them. But then some other people, you know, they talk about it and they make other people aware and talk to them about it. And it's like weird how different people cope, you know?
Yeah. And people who have had not much trauma, and it's driving me insane. who has not had much trauma think their issues are the biggest problem on earth and like blow up those things. And then they talk to people about, gonna bring back this conversation from before, of being like, oh my gosh, I'm so fat, like yada yada yada. You can't say that to other people because they will compare themselves to
what
you,
you're saying.
and that can cause eating disorders. That can like trigger them to go back into a phase of eating disorder. It's so bad.
Actually, I think also not just talking about like size-wise,